Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining the Lightwork software team to learn more about the power of follow through. I am always excited to talk about the value that performance management can have in the workplace. Just some quick housekeeping before we get started today. This webinar is being recorded and will be available here on the Lightwork YouTube channel along with our previous webinars. In the post-webinar email, you'll find additional resources like today's slide deck and a survey to provide us with feedback that actually enters you in a raffle. And if you'd like to learn more about Lightwork, you'll also find a link to my calendar, and that will allow you to pick a day and time that works best for you to connect. With that being said, my name is Morgan Lacey. I spend my days at Lightwork working with HR professionals to learn about their performance management process and the pain points they currently face when administering it to their team. And with that, I've learned a lot about engagement and communication in the workplace. So that's why you can find me here every month sharing best practices in performance management and other workplace themes. On our agenda today, I'm going to review what the benefits of follow through are for both employees and managers, as well as the tools that can be used in the performance management process to help any size team create a more efficient and effective process when following through with performance management results. Our group here today consists of different roles and industries, so I do my best to keep things general and review the essentials. The truth is, the foundations of performance management are easily lost in the day to day workload. So I hope you leave here today with some great reminders on how important it is to communicate and collaborate in the performance management process. Let's start off with communicating with employees about the performance and how important it is and what part it plays in the performance management process. Communication truly is the foundation of follow through because it adds context to next steps for things like action plans. Performance reviews, no matter the cadence, should not be a surprise for the employee. Employees should not only know when they are going to have their performance reviewed and rated, but the skills and knowledge they are going to be rated and reviewed on. I think those two details are missed in the process by a lot of companies that makes performance management feel more like a tool to punish employees rather than a tool to engage and support them. Performance management can be a powerful tool to give companies insight into where their workforce needs support or development. When done without intention or strategy, the performance management process can struggle to be effective, as it really does require leaders to take action with results. Part of taking action with results of the performance management process requires communicating the results of the review to the employee. Here, I have a short list of things that everyone should keep in mind when communicating the results and feedback of an employee's performance. I know you're all thinking these are very, very obvious things, but the truth is, a lot of these things get lost in the chaos of trying to wrap up the performance management review cycle. The majority of HR people that I connect with are begging their employees and managers to complete the process. By the end, some managers are just trying to do their day to day jobs and finish up all their employees' reviews so they can stop getting reminder emails. It's only human. We only have so much time and bandwidth to get it all done in a day. But why go through the process if by the end there's no intention or strategy? The communication of an employee's performance results should be provided privately and with professional and genuine intent. I know it's cliche to use the put yourself in their shoes mindset, but it really is a great way to make sure that feedback has respectful and supportive tones. Performance rating should be based on documented, observable behavior to allow leaders to provide specifics when reviewing the justification of a rating provided. For example, if attendance is something that an employee is receiving a low rating on, their manager should document the days that the employee no showed or arrived late. That way, when communicating the results to the employee, the manager can provide the documentation of their attendance records to add context to the low rating that the employee received. Every employee has their own professional development needs. Being able to define them and have a conversation about them is a big part of being an influential leader. Follow through starts with communicating results. Making sure the foundation of those communication is geared towards support and collaboration can bring the intention and strategy that employees and their managers need to make follow through more powerful. Creating an action plan with the results of an employee's performance review is a great way to add value in the performance management process. Now, I've mentioned before, it's important for leaders to be able to determine where an employee needs additional development, as this allows them to define what their action plan is meant to accomplish. Deciding what is going to define an employee's action plan should be a conversation between the employee and their manager. Employees shouldn't be surprised by what their manager is working to accomplish when providing an action plan because before this is even discussed, managers should have reviewed with the employee the results of their performance review or even the goals that they're currently working towards. Action plans could be created based on the status of an employee's goal, for instance. If managers are monitoring the status of the goals that they set for their employees and have the insight to know that an employee is not on track to meet a goal by its due date, there should be a conversation and a plan made. And that plan could include looking into additional resources and tools. And really, this can be applied to a variety of industries and roles, from sales goals to construction projects. Every department and employee is working towards something, and sometimes that means adapting and completing projects and meeting goals. When when managers are working with employees to define strategies and tasks for action plans, they're more likely to foster a culture of collaboration and support. And I say that because action plans can struggle and even fail if the foundation isn't communication. Managers and their employees, just like when setting goals, should always confirm that employees have the skills and resources to complete their action plan. Sometimes resources aren't available or aren't sufficient. And having a manager that's communicating with employees about setbacks and working together to create action plans are what keeps projects and departments moving. Action plans don't only have to take place when provided with the results of an annual review, although the same concepts do apply. Now, if you would like to talk more about action plans for your team, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to connect and learn more about your team's performance management process and kind of review content and best practices for them. So, now that we've talked about how to work towards defining an action plan, let's talk about the basic content for action plans. Goals and objectives are incredibly important here. And I also want to note that it's important for managers and employees to collaborate on goals and objectives. It is just as important to document that information. Goals should have several details, such as timeline in which the goal is to be completed and the priority for each goal included in the action plan. This allows employees to better monitor their own efforts and promotes a sense of focus and accountability. It's easy for the day to day to take over and action plans to fall apart. So, including specific tasks can also greatly benefit an employee's efforts in completing their action plan. Action plans are a great way to provide follow through with employee performance results. Assessing where employees need support professionally and then providing them with a clear plan with details and resources is the best way to get an employee engaged in their own professional growth. Action plans can be as simple or as detailed as your team needs, but without follow through, action plans can lose their value very quickly. If they're used to create a way for employees to have support and provide them with clear expectations, then they can be a powerful tool for a team of people who are interested in growing themselves professionally. If action plans are well documented and utilized, they can be a great thing for managers to reference year to year when evaluating an employee's growth. And I know that action plans look different for every industry and every role, and they all have different priorities and expectations to consider. So it's really important for leaders to not only consider the who, the when, and the why of the action plan, but also the how. How is our team going to work towards improvement? What resources do we currently have? And what should we be working towards to provide our employees in the future? These aren't always simple and straightforward conversations. But if your team is working to create a performance management process that is built around communication and documentation, then you should gather enough feedback to help your team determine what, as a company, your action plan should be to provide your employees with the right tools and resources they need to complete theirs. It's an important part of effective follow through with performance management results to be able to determine what employees' strengths and areas of weakness are. Performance management looks different for every company. So, the way a team defines what is included in their performance appraisal could even differ by department and role. So, what I suggest is that every role or department has a list of competencies that they are rated on. Competencies are defined as observable, measurable patterns of skill, knowledge, abilities, and behaviors that an individual needs to perform their job successfully. An example of a general competency is communication. This skill can require different tools and different skills depending on the role. For example, your customer service representatives and your engineers are not going to be doing the same type of communication with external parties. Should they all be respectful and professional when communicating? Of course. But customer facing roles also have to consider their ability to empathize, problem solve, and adapt with their customers in a different context than other roles in the company. Being able to determine what skills a role needs to be able to do their job successfully is the first step in knowing what is going to be included in the rating and reviewing of an employee's performance. For teams to have real results for the performance management process that can be used to determine what steps need to be taken with those results requires organization. And I don't mean just the performance management process being organized, which I'm sure most of us know here is very important. But really, what I'm referring to is organizing the results so they can be used in an effective way. Ratings are provided, whether it's numerical value or a category that the employee falls into. Managers should know what those ratings equate to so they can see how employees' performance is being viewed on a scale that's provided to them by the leaders on their team. This can allow them to organize the results of their employees to give them insight into who and what is the priority when it comes to being strategic with follow through. Which brings us to interpret. Having a clear picture of what an employee is really struggling with isn't always easy. Performance management allows leaders to review all the competencies for that role and determine the status of things like an employee's ability to lead or communicate. If you're seeing that an employee has a low rating when communicating effectively with their team, that might give you insight into other things they might be struggling with, like meeting deadlines. Performance management results can be more than a number on a page associated with an employee. It can be insight into where employees need a manager to step in and guide them and find a better balance or solution to things that they might not see themselves. You will find employees are more open to talking about their strengths and areas of weakness when they know there's an effort to support and develop them and not just rate them on a scale. So, now that we've reviewed the essentials to communicating performance results, defining and creating action plans built on collaboration, let's talk about the effect that follow through with those steps can have for both the manager and the employee. If you've joined our team here in the past for our webinars, you've heard me talk about how important follow through is when it comes to keeping your workforce engaged and communicating with you. Performance reviews should allow employees to express any concerns or requests. But the second very important step in getting that feedback from employees is taking action or at least acknowledging the concern or request. When that step is missed, you'll find that employees are no longer interested in sharing their concerns or requests as they're not met with any interest or urgency. With that, employees can lose interest in engaging in the improvement of their work or themselves professionally. If you want to engage employees in success, then their managers have to be accountable for following through with the feedback received from employees in the performance management process. If employees are struggling in an area and they share that it's because of work conditions or lack of resources, and nothing is done to address or acknowledge that feedback, don't expect that employee to stay around for another round of their performance being rated with no consideration for their concerns or setbacks. The support that follow through provides can retain employees. Employees are more easily able to focus on their task and role when they have a manager that is communicating and advocating for their success. I know, at least from my personal experience, I can very easily put every manager I've ever had into two categories: the ones that were there to support me and the ones that were there to manage me. The ones who supported me and engaged me in my own success are the leaders that I work to be more like every single day because I know that it makes a difference. And if you've seen both sides of management as an employee, I'm sure you can probably relate. When I think about the effect that the power of follow through can have in the workplace, I always think about what it does for the manager role. Going through the performance management process can be daunting and time consuming for managers. So, making the effort to follow through is really what makes all the time spent documenting and collaborating worth it. Managers who are committed to following through with the results of their employees' performance are more likely to build trust with their employees because it's clear that they're there to support and guide them and not just manage them. Managers will find more value in the performance management process when they make the effort to follow through with the results of their employees' performance, as it provides them with the changes that they need to boost productivity and meet goals. With the effort and changes, managers will find their team has better morale and is open to collaborating and developing as a team. Follow through can be the key ingredient to a strong employee and manager relationship. And I think we can all agree that that dynamic, when it struggles, it can affect an entire department. Follow through is a great way for managers to build a strong team that can communicate and adapt. But managing a team of people is a balancing game. So, having strong working relationships that are built on communication and follow through is significantly beneficial for all involved. Empowering managers to follow through with the results of their employees' performance or feedback can be a major part of retaining employees, which is something a lot of companies depend on their managers to do. Providing managers with what they need to follow through for their team efficiently and effectively can be part of retaining the managers themselves. Giving managers the power to advocate and guide for their employees is an important part of developing a workforce professionally. Having the tools for managers to properly document and reference employee performance details throughout the year can really provide proper documentation for them to reference employees' performance details throughout the performance management process. Investing in tools to empower managers in their role is a great way to show them an investment in their success and promote focus and accountability. Another great way to support managers is taking action with employee performance results and providing them with resources to guide and advocate for their employees. Professional growth, which I know can look different for every industry, but allowing managers to have the option to request things like additional training and education for their employees is really something most companies' performance management process should include. Once managers have rated and scored their employees' performance and have a clear picture of what the action plan should include to develop their employees' areas of weakness, they should know what steps to take to request the resources needed for the employee's development. Having that option for manager plays a huge part in the success of an action plan. Providing managers with the knowledge and resources they need to guide their employees can positively affect things like productivity and commitment. Allowing managers to show their employees that they're invested in their success by following through with action plans that include resources and are founded on collaboration can be the key to helping any size company grow. Now, I know that every company doesn't have the time and resources on hand to constantly invest in development of their employees, but I think that documenting those weaknesses and requests to have an idea of where your team can be supported and developed when time and budget allows for it is an important part of being strategic and intentional with your employee and company's growth. Having managers go through the entire performance management process to have no support on the other side with the results to make changes can take the value out of the performance management process quickly for all involved. And I would say to never underestimate the power of what supporting managers and their role can do for a company. All right, tools to follow through. As we wrap up here today, I just want to talk about some of the tools in the performance management process that I think are wonderful for managers to use to document. With surveys, wonderful way to gather feedback from employees. One of the examples that I always like to use is for new hires. Providing new hires with a way to kind of formally communicate with their manager from the beginning allows them to request things like, support or just guidance, even resources in their new role. So just imagine as a new employee, you reach out to your manager in a survey and request additional support or guidance, and your manager collaborates with you, and they follow through and they get that for you. That is such a wonderful way to start a dynamic between a manager and employee, is having that really strong communication and demonstrating the follow through of them, providing feedback. Performance management as a whole is a wonderful way to determine areas of weakness. I think an annual review is a great way to kind of paint that picture, but I think it's also important for it to be paired with documentation throughout the year. I also think that one-on-ones are a great way for managers to connect with their employees throughout the year and kind of monitor the goals they're setting for them, any action plans that they're currently working on. Again, it should be tone of support and guidance and not something to just monitor and punish an employee for. With that being said, Lightwork Performance Management is a user-friendly and web-based solution. We give managers and their employees the ability to access and participate in the performance management process. They can document, gather feedback, and provide, ratings all in one centralized location. So if you would like to learn more about Lightwork Performance Management, please feel free to reach out to us. With that being said, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed our presentation today and got to take back some of the essentials of, being strategic with follow through and empowering managers, and kind of what it does for your team as a whole to follow through and make those changes and work towards improvement. You can follow us on all social media, Lightwork Software. You'll be able to find the recording on our YouTube channel with our previous webinars, as I mentioned before. Post-webinar email, again, there will be a survey. We love getting feedback. We want to know what you guys want to learn about, and what you enjoy. You'll also be able to get the slide deck from today, and if you want to learn more about our integrations with like Sage and Acumatica, that's there as well. But with that being said, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and join us again here next month to learn more about best practices and performance management and other workplace themes.